Now we can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
There are two items on the consent agenda this evening. Unless a member of council would like to pull one or both for separate discussion, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilman Iacone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council Vice President Davis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, I'd like to open the floor to members of the public who wish to address the council on any matter. Please state your name and address for the record, and keep in mind that it's a 5-minute limit. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anne Marie Manahan. I am a resident at 30 Miller Road, and I'm here on behalf of several of the residents in the historic district. In October and November, we had a series of very informative and helpful meetings with the mayor and the administration regarding a proposed co-home at 44 Miller Road. We had talked about concerns that we had with this entity and the incorporation of some low-income units that were going to be transferred into the property. So a co-home agreement was drafted, of which several members from the neighborhood have commented on, but we have not yet seen back those comments in the document. And one of our concerns is that we continue this dialogue with the administration regarding the co-home and our concerns. Our biggest concern is that if the entity, Morris Blue, dissolves at any time, whether it's in 2 years, 5 years, or 20 years, that this can revert back to a single-family residence. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Roger Kaufman, 28 Miller Road. I have the same concerns. I just wanted to echo my support, and also I want to share something that I don't know if it's true or not because it's secondhand, but I think you should look into it. I served in your seat for 6 years some time ago, and I know there was times when we had the administration under Crescitello that tried to do some things that were a little not to our liking, and we did something about it when we found out about that. Jeff Stiles, I don't know him personally. If he were here tonight, I wouldn't even recognize him, but he has been involved in this particular situation. He tried to get information, and he was, according to his letter to many of us, he was treated in a way that was not a way that any resident or taxpayer of the town should be treated when he tried to get information about this. So I think that you should look into that, because that's not an appropriate way for someone who's a resident of the town or a taxpayer to be treated when he tried to find out some information about the details of this particular project at 44 Miller Road. Thank you.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mitchell Cobert, 61 Miller Road. I don't have any objections to the use of the house, and I think it's appropriate. The only comment I want to make is that there's a contract being drafted, and I had a chance to look at it, and I made some comments, and my major concern is what happens if 10, 20, 30 years from now, the use reverts back to single family. So the consideration I had when I reviewed the contract, aside from some usual remarks, is that there should be some provision in the deed for reversion back to single-family use if and when that occasion arises. I think the use right now, as proposed, is appropriate, and I don't see an objection, certainly not from my viewpoint. But I think that instead of a deed restriction, which would compel litigation down the road if there is a subsequent use back to single family, I think that there should be some provision in the deed itself so that it can revert back to single family use if that is what happens. So that was my only comment, and I had hoped that the drafters of the contract and the parties negotiating the contract just take into consideration some of the comments that have been made. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Ashin Patel, and I have been a resident at 6769 Maple Avenue, Morristown, New Jersey, since September 29th, 1983. I'm here to voice my concern like people before me mentioned, and I do not agree with the council decision to award Morris Company Home a grant from affordable housing. And I do not believe that this is the best use of these funds for what is intended for. I do not believe that this is the best use of these funds for what is intended, nor do I believe that the long-term, the best interest of the historic neighborhood were considered. While there may be nothing that we can do as resident to stop the affordable housing units from being designated in the property, I would like to say on record that I would like restriction put in place so that this group home were to no longer exist for whenever it moves out of it, then 44 Miller can go back to single family. It is very important that you consider this because our neighborhood is changing and we do not like. I think I'm here long enough, more than most of the people are here in the seat, and I know Morristown has changed a lot, and your consideration will be very greatly appreciated to maintain our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Respond to their request regarding the single-family home version. I don't think this is the place to have that debate.
This is Bill Byrne, and I live at 100 Franklin Street. And I'm really just appalled in what I'm hearing, that they don't want a group home, not in my backyard. Makes me feel like I'm back in Morris Plains, where we had that same problem when the ARC wanted to put a group home in. But the group home did get in after me and my brother testifying. Really seems that we're going back to them days where no, not in our neighborhood. Well, I like to quote from the mayor, and he did say this. He said, Morristown is a welcoming community. We welcome everybody. Well, okay, if that's the case, okay. How about somebody like myself? I have a disability. Okay, it's not as bad as some people, but I have a disability. Do any of you have a problem with me? Any of you? Okay, well, these people have the same rights and the same opportunities as everybody else. And this mayor did say that we're a welcoming community. So do you welcome somebody that has Down syndrome? Do you welcome somebody that has, just bear with me, I'm a little nervous here. Do you welcome somebody that has autism? Okay, we're a town and we welcome everybody. It doesn't matter whether they're disability. And if any of you people, I'll challenge anybody here, anybody, if, these people in these group homes, they make good neighbors, and I can back it up because I can back it up in Morris Plains. You just call anybody from Morris Plains. You call somebody from Parsippany. You call somebody throughout the whole county. Okay, these people make good neighbors, and they also go to programs. They're not going to sit in a group home forever. They're not going to sit in a group home. Okay, a lot of these people work. Some of them go to occupational training centers. But they do work, they do have full-time jobs, and they're taxpayers too. And you know what? We have the same rights as everybody else does here. We got the same rights, but we also got responsibilities. So I'm just saying as a town that I'm asking you to back this. And I know the mayor's been always supportive in people with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Good evening. I'm Linda Carrington. I live at 49 McCulloch Avenue, the corner of Miller Road. And I would just like to say that a few weeks ago we had in our neighborhood a problem with the traffic at the Assumption School. Actually, it had been ongoing since the fall. And having contacted the principal, nothing was resolved. So I did contact the Director of Public Safety. And I have to compliment him because within 2 days, 3 days, the problem was solved. He sent officers out, they took pictures for 2 days, and then on the third day, a whole new traffic pattern was instituted for the parents. Now, the reason there are so many parents coming at 2 in the afternoon is because another school closed out of another town, and those students came to Assumption in the fall. And so they're not eligible for busing. So I want to thank you. So isn't that good news? Someone's not complaining. The other thing is, aside from that, about the design guidelines and about the redevelopment. Now we're getting, when we have the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board, we're supposed to listen to the design guidelines. And over here you have the redevelopment. And when I attended the last meeting, I said, what other buildings does this proposal reflect? And the answer was it reflects another redevelopment building in another redevelopment area. So I want you to decide what the future is in terms of designs. Is it going to be the existing design guidelines for non-redevelopment zones and then a different plan for the redevelopment zones? Because we're getting buildings which are, quite frankly, different. I'm not going to tell you I object to them. I haven't seen them all. I haven't seen the plans for all of Market Street. So please, if you could help on that, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment? Please come forward.
My apologies, I did have one more
Can you
point.
please state your name and address again for the record?
Yes, it's Anne Marie Manahan at 30 Miller Road. When our neighborhood had the meeting with the mayor and the administration back in October, one of our points of concern was, in addition to the affordable housing units that were coming from the town, we had read that there were going to be more units coming from a transfer of a proposed project on Schuyler Place from Claremont Construction. And at the time, Mr. Inglesino told us that that was off the table and the only units would be coming from the town's affordable trust. Approximately a month ago, we were notified that those units are in fact being considered being transferred from the project, but that's under the zoning board, and so they're taking that under consideration. But as residents, we were just concerned. We were told that that was not part of the equation, and so now it looks like of the 7 units within, 4 will be affordable housing, and one of our questions is how does that affect this group's pro forma and financials? Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment? Okay, at this time, then we'll close the public session. Council comments or questions?
I think we should address, I think the administration should address
Okay.
comments, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
I'm going to start before the business administrator makes a few comments and the town attorney makes a few comments, so there's not a lot of misinformation out there, because there seems to be some misinformation. The first thing is, let me clarify the comment that was made by the gentleman about Jeff Stiles. Jeff Stiles came into the administration office and was loud and aggressive to two women that were at the front desk. I was standing in the back, heard it, went out in front and asked him if I could help, let him know I was the mayor. He was very agitated because he came from the clerk's office and he was looking for information, and he was told at the clerk's office that he had to do an Oprah, and he didn't like that answer. So when he came upstairs and I heard how loud he was to the two women, I said, "You still have to get an Oprah." And he left. So the misinformation you're getting from him is not accurate. The second thing is, as far as the meeting that took place with John Inglesino, the comment was made that we understand that there's a redevelopment that's going to offer partial of their affordable to this project. What we said was, we don't know any redevelopment that is involved in Morristown that we're a part of. So after finding out that it was Claremont, it was the Board of Adjustment. They have their own right to do what that board does, and we don't have any say over it. So the misinformation was, we never said there wasn't, what we said was we didn't know any redevelopment that was going on with the planning board or the redevelopment agency that had to do with Morris Blue. That's the facts. Now we're going to address the agreement that everybody's talking about.
So the council may recall that Morris Blue Co-Home now had made a request for funding from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. They submitted an application. The council passed a resolution providing them with $100,000 in contribution towards towards the home. And the council brought up very good points about if the town is giving money, we should have some safeguards. We should have an agreement in place, which are valid points. And we made it so the resolution is contingent upon, or the grant of the money is contingent upon an agreement. We drafted an agreement. We had a very open meeting with the neighborhood a couple of times, and the applicant. It was a very, very open and public discussion about it. The comments that I heard at the meeting was not that anyone was opposed to a group home. It was about providing safeguards, just making sure that the money that the town is giving is protected. So so the agreement was drafted. There is a provision in there where the neighborhood wanted somebody from the community to be part of the board of directors. That is in the agreement. The agreement was sent to the neighborhood. It was also sent to Co-Home. The neighborhood provided their comments. We were compiling all of the comments. Co-Home was not providing us with any comments. So the town sent a letter to Co-Home saying, if you do not respond within 7 days, we're going to go back to the council and rescind the offer of $100,000. We just received a letter last week, which said that some of the conditions are too onerous. We want to have a meeting with the town and the neighborhood to discuss how to move forward. So the comments that were made by the public, we have them. We are going to put them into the agreement. Co-Home is not agreeable just to the basic agreement that we have drafted. So now it's, as I said, we just got the letter last week. We're going to contact Co-Home, set up a meeting to see what they have to say. But the comments that were made by the public, we are well aware of it. And we're going to make sure that all of them are incorporated into the final agreement. There is no final agreement yet. There is no final contract that has been signed or even revised that would not reflect the comments made by the public. One comment that that Mr. Colbert made, there is that we can put a deed restriction, and the council would have the option to discharge that deed restriction if it went from a group home back to a single family. So the council does have that discretion to do so. So as far as an update, we're in a holding pattern. We had provided Cohom a deadline, and they finally responded last week, towards the later part of last week. So we're still digesting their response, and we're going to set up a meeting with them, and then set up another meeting with the neighborhood and just talk this through.
And eventually, the contract comes back to us also.
Absolutely, yes.
Do you have any comments?
And it'll be introduced, open for
But
public
you've had
comment at that
communications
time
with
again,
neighborhood.
and then
You should state
at the
that.
following meeting adopted.
Well, it's not something that that has to get introduced and adopted,
So it
right?
just gets approved by the
So we
council.
we just have to give you a copy of it, and it'll be in a public session, so nothing's going to be hidden.
Because I agree with everything you said, but also the other provision that we were requesting also was protection of that $100,000. What is the lien and what is because again, town has done a very good job in affordable housing, providing affordable housing. Town's done a very good job in these assessments against developers, with developers, I should say. But preserving that corpus, I think is important, that we don't lose that. And that's also going to be in the agreement?
Absolutely, it already is in the agreement that it's going to be a mortgage on the property.
Thank you.
So the town's money will be protected.
And council members, if I may add, I've had some communication with the residents through Ms. Manahan, and as well as with Councilwoman Deeb, a couple of the other neighbors that were copied on the communication, to let them know the status of the negotiation and the development of the contract. I think there was some assumption that subsequent to the first draft that was circulated, that there have been revisions. And as Veach has stated already, there has not been a revision yet because we were waiting to consolidate comments from all parties involved. That all has been communicated to the residents. There has not been any additional updates since then. So again, we're in a holding pattern. We did finally get comments back from Cohom. And once there is an update, we will provide that to the residents, and we'll assemble a meeting when we have more information to share.
One of the questions I have, and first, thank you all for updating us and giving us all this information tonight, is at the, and to what extent we can talk about this, I don't know, but I did have a question about the process. At the Board of Adjustment meeting, Claremont Properties stated they wanted to transfer credits to this home, but this agreement had not been finalized. So how can an applicant transfer credits? I have two questions. Can an applicant transfer credits when, in fact, the application or the contract is still pending? And two, when you're transferring affordable housing obligation credits, is that in addition to the $100,000 grant award? And when you're transferring those credits, is that a monetary amount that's being transferred, or how does that work?
So I think you're confusing two separate things. It's two separate things. It's not one thing. But I'm going to speak generally because this body should not discuss any specific zoning board application. So I'm just going to give you a general response on what our ordinance provides. Our ordinance, first of all, the $100,000 is from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is controlled by the council. So that they have jurisdiction over it. The council voted to provide the $100,000 funding from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The second part is a zoning board application. Our ordinance provides that an applicant to the zoning board, which is a separate independent body, an applicant can request that body that in lieu of providing affordable housing, 50% of that affordable housing be provided off-site or provide monetary value of those affordable housing units. But that's something the zoning board is dealing with or will deal with on any application. So it's two separate processes. One is not contingent on the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess what my question is when, and we went to these neighborhood meetings, and I saw you all there, and again, thank you for your diligence there, is at that time, there was no discussion that there was an affordable housing. It was discussed that it was going to be a group residence for intellectually disabled or intellectually challenged people. So that was a new development. So at what point?
Same thing, because affordable housing credits, you're still getting affordable housing credits because it is a group home. It's the same exact thing. So when you're building affordable housing, you can make it a group home, but it's still considered affordable housing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think we're kind of talking at each other. I guess during that first two neighborhood meetings, there was no discussion at all that it was affordable housing. It was discussed that it was a community residence for intellectually challenged. And I guess my concern is we've given taxpayer money to this venture, and then also we've removed it from the tax rolls, correct? So this property is now not paying taxes? It's tax exempt?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know. I don't know if it is or if it's not.
Could we get an answer? Because my concern is it now isn't paying taxes, and I believe as part of that resolution, correct me if I'm wrong, if I recall the resolution, we did say that it was going to be tax exempt. It's part of that resolution because we were awarding a $100,000 grant award pending the contract, and then also removing it from the taxes at a tune of $27,000 a year in perpetuity. So that was. It was almost twice the amount of.
It's tax exempt.
Right. I don't have the resolution in front of me, but I don't believe that was discussed in the resolution. I think the resolution was simply whether we're going to provide a $100,000 contribution to this entity that would go towards a group home.
Could we get clarification on that, please? If it was tax exempt?
We can get the resolution, and we can get the information on that. But just to clarify, the two meetings that we did have with the neighborhood, I think it was discussed at length about the affordable housing credits that the town would receive because of the type of housing that was provided. So that was discussed. The affordable housing credits was definitely discussed.
So the $100,000 then that the council voted for, and you were saying you were going to make it part of the contract to, so in the agreement, if there was some sort of issue or problem down the road or some kind of deed restriction, would that money have to be given back to the town, or how does that work?
So it would be a lien on the property. So if there is a default, just like a regular mortgage, if there is a default, then that money, the town would have equity in that house, building, whatever it may be. And eventually, yes, the town would try and recover that money from the property itself.
And is that one of the discussion items on the contract now?
Yes.
Is it something that they were agreeing to?
No.
Okay.
There's a lot of open issues that still have to be negotiated, but we strongly believe that if we're putting up the money, we want to have some safeguards in place, and we want to make sure that if there is a default, that the town does get reimbursed the money back.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your efforts. Can you continue to update us, and perhaps can we have another meeting with the neighborhood?
Absolutely. As I said, we just received a letter last week, so once we are able to get additional information, we'll certainly update the neighborhood and absolutely update the council.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions or comments?
Vij, just one consideration also. Hypothetically, if, there's the money from our trust fund and there's the transfer of 2 units as permitted under the zoning ordinance, does the lien apply to all the money or just to the trust funds?
Just to the trust fund.
And so what
Because that's a
protection
separate contract.
Under the other arrangement, if you could just look into it and let us know later, where would be the protection there? Because would they then, it's a transfer, but if it goes away, what happens if it goes away? I mean, similar situation.
Sure, and I would think that the board making any type of decision would take all of that into account, but that's, once again, that's a separate entity, separate board.
It's an interesting question.
Yes, it is.
Any more comments?
Well, I still, to piggyback off of what Bob was just asking, I still don't understand how the zoning board can approve something, an application that's still kind of pending. Can you explain that to me? Like, how could they allow a transfer? I understand the ordinance says they
Want me to
can
explain
do
it?
that, but if the application isn't complete, how can that go through?
Well, it's not going through. It's still before the board.
Let me explain it. So, because you guys shouldn't be discussing zoning board. There's an application in front of the zoning board from a piece of property on Schuyler for 24 units. Everybody's aware of it. It was in the newspaper. They do not have approvals. They're subject to meeting certain requirements under the zoning. Whether they get their application approved or not, it's up to the zoning board. If their application does not get approved, then it's a moot point because there's no application. If their application gets approved, then that applicant will then petition the board if they so choose to, either build the affordable, what's under our ordinance in the property. They're going to pay in lieu of X amount of money to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is required by ordinance, or they can transfer 2 units or however many units is to an off-site place, which is what they're talking to Morris Blue about. And that's really it in a nutshell. So nothing moves forward until the zoning board either gives it a thumbs up or thumbs down.
And just one last point. This body, the council, serves as the appeals, the appellate court, for lack of better words. So if an application gets denied, an appeal is made to this body. And that's why I keep saying just be cautious about not to discuss any specific application, because it's possible that it may be before you.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I'm going to take this time to turn it over to our mayor, and he'll give his reports.
Okay, a couple things. The airport had a few retirements. Bill Buckauer, the executive director, retired on March 1st, and Bob Bogan, the deputy executive director, retired on February 1st. I just want to publicly acknowledge both gentlemen. They have been stewards of the airport for, must be 30 years. Those who've been around long enough know them. They are both retiring pretty much at the same time. I did stop down and see them at their retirement dinner Saturday night, gave them both a proclamation, and on behalf of the council and the citizens, thank them for being good stewards of our airport. They've done a great job, even though we don't get a lot of money from them. They've done a great job, and I was able to meet the new executive director and deputy executive director, and Jillian and I already set up a meeting with them, talk about a few issues, and then hopefully they'll come and have their conversations with you guys. But we wish those 2 gentlemen a great retirement. On February 27th, that's this Wednesday, if you don't have your tickets, I think there's tickets still on sale at MPAC, is Morristown's On Stage. Our very own Kevin Coughlin, I think, made the final cut from Morristown Green. So that's Wednesday night. On Friday, March 1st, the 6 p.m. Grand Marshal reception at the Madison Hotel in honor of Father Paddy O'Donovan. And then it's a little bit Irish. Tickets are on sale at paradeday.com. That's 6 o'clock Friday night, that's the dinner prior to what's coming up, the 9th, which is our parade. Saturday, March 2nd at 2:30, those who want to attend, is a Girl Scout Gold Award ceremony for 4 local Girl Scouts on Troop 80841. That's Naya Fedorov, Kylie Strasser, Anna Clichet, and Christina Ledford. The Gold Award is the most prestigious award earned in Girl Scouting and represents leadership, creativity, and an effort in making their community a better place. It will be held at Alexander Hamilton School. That's 2:30, Saturday, March 2nd. Sunday, March 3rd, 12:30 Mass at Assumption, followed by a 1:30 celebration for the Dublin Project. That's the historic Morristown neighborhood, right down the street from where I live. They will receive an historical marker at the corner of Madison Street and McCullough, being put on by the Knights of Columbus, and that should be a great celebration at 1:30. On March 4th, I'm sure Michael, you want to take that real quick?
Sure. March 4th is the 17th annual Taste of Morristown for the Morristown Rotary. It's held at the Governor Morris Hotel. It begins at, well, there's 2 options. There's VIP tickets available, which get you in an hour early at 6 p.m., and those are $100. And then regular tickets, general admission, is from 7 p.m. from 7 to 9 for $65. As I mentioned, it's the 17th annual event. It's, I think right now, over 30, close to 35 restaurants in Morristown. So if anybody wants to go, it's a great event. It's the biggest fundraiser of the year for the Morristown Rotary. If anybody needs tickets, please email me or let me know, or you can buy them at the door. But it's a great event. All the Morristown restaurants are out, and it's sponsored also by Gary's Wine.
And again, Mike, what's the time? Where's it located?
Oh, all right. So this Monday, the 4th, at the Westin Governor Morris Hotel, 6 to 9.
Okay, and and many of us have attended. It's a great event. It gets crowded, so I get the VIP and get there early because it does get crowded. And then, of course, on Saturday, March 9th, I'm sure everybody will be in their green and marching down South Street for the St. Patrick's Day Parade. That kicks off at noon. Stay tuned and watch your emails because we may host something a little bit prior for some guests that are going to be showing up. So that's March 9th. Let's hope for good weather. Noon to 2, St. Patrick's Day Parade here in Morristown. Anything else? That's all I have.
Okay, any other presentations and reports? Oh, whoa, the Foots Pond update.
No.
Department of Safety.
Oh, the Department of Safety? Oh, you changed.
Department of Safety Annual Report. Thank you.
Oh, I hate it. Tell Dylan we got to get rid of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, right? It's hefty. You've been busy.
Cheers, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm Michael Corcoran, Director of Public Safety for the town of Morristown. I've been with the town now for just a little over 4 months. And in this 4-month period, we've been a very busy department as the marriage of public safety, so to speak, has come together. In front of you, you have the 2018 annual report from the Department of Public Safety. It's in excess of 100 pages. I promise not to go through all 100 in this presentation, but what I want to do is just to give you a brief slide presentation of some of the highlights that are in there. And obviously, I'll make myself available for questions after you have time to digest it and to speak about it. Before I get into the presentation itself, I just want to thank the members of the police and fire bureaus under the leadership of Acting Police Chief Darnell Richardson and Fire Chief Bob Flanagan for their leadership and support throughout this 4-month period, and also the mayor and business administrator, Mr. Pawar, for their guidance. It's been instrumental in help in navigating some of the challenges that we've faced since I took office. Very blessed to have an outstanding team that's in place here, and we've been busy for the past 4 months compiling not only information, but putting this together. And particularly, I want to recognize Lieutenant Stuart Greer, who really did a yeoman's work in help putting this report together. Now, the Department of Public Safety is composed of, excuse me, oh, gotta move my slide here, sorry. Department of Public Safety is Director of Public Safety, and when I took over in October, after the town had approved this position, the department was created to oversee police, fire, Office of Emergency Management. Now, with respect to the organizational structure, we have 57 police officers, a support staff of 4 civilian employees, and 9 special police officers who supplement us in terms of traffic control and other special projects that we undertake throughout the season. Morristown, as you know, is a very vibrant place, a very busy town, so they support us in a lot of other respects in terms of parades, marches, demonstrations, and any other type of special festivals or events. Specialty assignments we're involved in. Our police officers participate in the County Narcotics Task Force, as well as the Sheriff's Emergency Response Team. So we're not only confined to Morristown, we have built relationships beyond Morristown throughout the county. We have 32 firefighters, career firefighters, support staff, 1 civilian employee, and 18 interior-trained volunteer firefighters. 18 volunteer firefighters are known as the Green Tags, and in that they're certified to fight fires. Volunteers have been a tremendous asset to the Morristown Fire Bureau in supporting us and coming out in the time of need, particularly in emergency situations when we do have house fires. So we're grateful for that support. And also the majority of our firefighters are also highly trained and active with the Urban Search and Rescue Team. USAR is a regional team that operates out of the North Jersey region. 27 out of 32 firefighters are specially trained in rescue tactics and techniques, from rope rescue, trench rescue, to ice rescue, and everything in between. Really advanced specialty training that they receive. Now, with respect to calls for service, in 2018, the Police Bureau responded to approximately 45,000 calls for service, and that included everything from traffic accidents to selective enforcement to your criminal offenses, alarms, property checks, a little bit of everything. Fire Bureau responded to over 1,700 calls for service to include fires, hazardous conditions, and any other type of fire alarms, and also specialized rescue functions as well as being a part of that USAR team. Now, with respect to some department statistics, before I got hired, the mayor said to me, charged me, and the BA charged me with compiling statistics, compiling data, and making sure we not only measure data, but we provide data in a transparent manner, not only to the governing body, but also to the citizens. And that's something I think we have done, and I'll talk about the CompStat process in a minute. We've had increased enforcement details were initiated by both the police and fire bureaus and continue to address many of the quality of life issues that surround a very busy and vibrant restaurant, bar, and entertainment destination. Morristown's a very popular destination town, and with that sometimes come some quality of life issues and some responsibilities in keeping people safe. Toward that end, on the fire side, our fire inspectors conducted over 650 fire inspections to include the initial inspections, compliant inspections, follow-up. You even see them out there the night before Thanksgiving. Our fire inspectors were out there. Would anticipate they're going to be out there parade day as well, and in other days where there is potentially overcrowding situations. Our officers, police officers were extremely vigilant about violations of local ordinances, as a way to deter proper behavior. It issued over 100 summonses for urinating in public and 120 for drinking in public, particularly around the bar area and train station. So we're going to put a heavy emphasis on quality of life issues and quality of life enforcement throughout the town. And quality of life is going to be one of our big initiatives. So I would anticipate those numbers to increase for 2019. Our traffic summonses increased from 2017 by over 30%, with a particular emphasis on speeding complaints. I believe page 32 or 33 addresses our traffic violations and has a breakdown of all the different traffic violations that are in there. But speeding is probably the complaint I get the most. The acting chief will probably back me up on this too. That's like the dominant complaint we get is our traffic-oriented complaints. So we put a heavy emphasis on that, and proudly, overall crime decreased 31% in Morristown from 2017. That's 2018 is the safest year on record in over a 10-year period. So that crime graph or chart is continuing a downward spiral, and we're going to keep our foot on the gas to ensure that we keep going in that direction. Towards that end, we've implemented what's called the CompStat process. And CompStat started in the mid-1990s in New York City, and we've adapted a version of that. CompStat stands for Compare Statistics, and what it is, it's a management philosophy. It's a formalized management meeting of the agency for managing police operations. Key principle is gathering and analyzing data to produce solutions. It's identifying a problem, coming up with a solution to a problem, and then evaluating your solution. If it didn't work, why didn't it work? And if it worked, great. So we don't do things in a vacuum. We're continually analyzing our response and analyzing our strategies. CompStat functions as a crime control process. We have bi-weekly meetings, which attendance is mandatory for all supervisors. We call it sitting in the square in the training room, where we sit in the square. You can see a picture there. That's an actual CompStat meeting where we sit in our training room. We have all of our supervisors that are required to attend. And we look at our performance indicators. We review them critically for opportunities for improvement. Bureau supervisors are required to attend the CompStat meeting, and the ultimate goal here, obviously, not only is to keep people safe here, but to consistently capture, measure data, and facilitate response to crime, traffic issues, as well as streamline reporting data to the governing body. And one thing you will get from the Department of Public Safety is more frequent reporting in terms of data and what we're doing. I think it's important for you all to be involved in what we're doing. That's as a stakeholder in the process. Now, a couple quality of life initiatives. Right before I got hired, the mayor, when he offered me the job, he said, we have a problem with bicyclists on South Street, like riding on the sidewalks. And as sure as can be, we're having a meeting. We're sitting outside one of the coffee shops, and there goes somebody on a bicycle. So we came up with a plan in coordination with the police department, but not only just the police department, we partnered with Brian Lozano at Winds of the Spirit too, and what we did was we took our existing bicycle ordinance and translated it into Spanish as well. We began an educational campaign that started back in November, and what we've done, we've stopped probably over 100 bicyclists, giving them that information, sharing that information, and educating them on it being a violation of our town ordinances. And at a meeting I had with Councilman Armington a couple weeks ago about bicycle and pedestrian safety, we're putting those flyers into some of the local bicycle shops too, in terms of educating the public. And that's something we're going to continue to do as the weather gets nicer and nicer in terms of educating people about this danger. Quality of life initiatives too, the Fire Bureau and the Office of Emergency Management's Community Emergency Response Team, the American Red Cross partnered to install smoke alarms and detectors. That began in 2018. I think we just rolled it out, I believe it was February 9th, along Western Avenue, Plum, Chestnut. So that's another thing to keep people safe. I mean, obviously, if you're not fighting fires, the Fire Bureau is preventing fires, so that goes a long way to preserving quality of life for everyone. Community initiatives, a few community initiatives. The Pink Patch Project, you see that around October, where PBA, Morristown PBA, and in partnership with the police department, has a Pink Patch Project where the patches on their shoulders go pink for the month of October. The purpose of that is to raise money for breast cancer awareness. Great initiative, too, raises a lot of money. The Tri-Mars Junior Police Academy, it's 6 years in the running. You see Officer Deanna Dietrich there. It's in partnership with Morris Township, Morris Plains, and it's a great two-week opportunity for our youngsters. On the fire side, Toys for Tots programs, where the fire department collects toys for needy children, but also open houses at the firehouse as well, in terms of engaging the community and having schools come to the community. I mean, it should be our house is your house, so we invite the public to come in. Now, real quickly, some goals for the Department of Public Safety for 2019. First goal, increase community engagement, social media, increased open houses, and participation in community events. If you're on Facebook at all, the Morristown Department of Public Safety has been on Facebook since January. If any of you are not want to follow us on Facebook, we'd appreciate that and encourage all members of the public to follow us on Facebook too, because we'll put out timely information. Our NICS alerts are linked to our Facebook page, and we put out different tips, public safety, anything related to public safety, we're going to be publishing that. Achieving accreditation for the Bureau of Police is another goal of ours, and we're actually meeting with our consultants next week to get the ball rolling on that. Accreditation means having sound policies, procedure in place, and measuring your performance against set standards, New Jersey state standards. Accreditation really started in the healthcare industry. It really spilled over into law enforcement, and I'm very proud to say we're going to be taking the lead and looking to get the Bureau of Police accredited. Another important safety issue is reducing traffic accidents, both vehicular and pedestrian. Enforcement, education, engineering, pedestrian safety grant, partnering with New Jersey Department of Transportation. The DOT has been in here, has been into Morristown, been working with us. We have a pedestrian safety grant that we're working with Trans Options. So we're looking for some exciting opportunities to reduce those pedestrian safety accidents in 2019. And then finally, we're looking to continually update our Office of Emergency Management annexes and standard operating guidelines for the fire department. And that is ongoing. Chief Flanagan and I talk on a regular basis about that, and that's an ongoing process. So that's just a thumbnail sketch of what's contained in the little over 100 pages of your annual report. But I think it's important to showcase the efforts of public safety and to recognize the good work that the men and women of the police and fire bureaus do on it every day. I'm extremely proud to be their leader. I'm very proud of all of them and the hard work and dedication and commitment they have every day. And just before I close, I want to congratulate members of the Morristown Fire Department. They won a gourmet cook-off contest last night statewide. And I'm told the dish was an Asian-infused poke dish. So
Wow.
congratulations to the FMBA on that.
Can we get some?
I think after the meeting, we'll go over to the firehouse for a little dinner. But I thank all of you for your support. And obviously, if you have any questions, after you have a chance to digest everything, I'd absolutely make myself available to you.
Well, I, for one, am really grateful for this report. I mean, we're going into my 4th year, and this is the first time I've been, witness to any such report. This is incredible, and we all, really were looking forward to this kind of communication between the departments and us. So I think on behalf of all of us, I want to just say thank you, because that was a really great report. Yeah?
Thank you very much.
And I applaud you and administration. This was a great point of frustration early on, 4 years ago, in terms of how do you control the bar scene in town. And having this information, it had to be self-produced by citizens 4 years ago. And having this is fantastic. Just a couple of questions, because I am who I am, so I don't have a question. Sorry. So the question I have here is, it's very clear you did. In fact, I have to applaud you guys too. The summonses for speeding. You've heard all the speeding complaints come before this council, and you guys really did listen. I mean, it shows it in the stat. That's an amazing stat.
Yeah.
And it's all about controlling speeding in town. So I applaud you guys on that. That's a great job. A lot of things that aren't in here, and I'm just wondering, how do you capture it, though? Is there's disturbances that do not result in either a charge or a summons? And that's actually always been like the underlying, soft spot in any of our debates. How do you gauge that? Is there a way where they're reported in a police note, where it's a check-off on a police note, and it can be electronically pulled? That is actually just, and I haven't read this, so it may be in here, but that's going to be my only question.
Sure, and that's something, Councilman, that we can address, and I think our CompStat process, I think, definitely will address that in terms of how we document, what we document, and how much we document, because it's important to have facts, to have data, so you can analyze your responses to those problems, if they're crime problems, that you can indeed address them. But I think another thing, too, is I think the accreditation process is going to force us to report things a little bit differently in terms of everything we do, and it's going to really change really how we do business into eternity, really. I mean, it forces you to have definitive processes in place. And, my concern, too, obviously, is you don't want a dispute turning into an assault or something more difficult. So follow-up and assessment is important to what we're going to be doing. And we're really, we pay close attention to what is going on. Every night, I get a shift report of everything that takes place overnight and information that happens. So I think having that information at hand, will enable us to develop response strategies, but also to ensure that we're documenting things appropriately, and that if in fact crimes are being committed, people are held accountable.
Madam President, can I just make a comment? Yeah, just want to echo the comments of my council colleagues, and thank you. I know I've spoken with Jillian in the past about getting a kind of yearbook and pictures, because we hear names, but we don't see faces. So we've talked about this in the past, and I can't thank you enough. My vision is not great as I'm getting younger, so it's great to have that. It's also very wonderful to hear that 2018 was the safest year on record, and that overall crime decreased by 31%. I just have a couple of questions. How do you measure that decrease, and what is the index? Is that in here? I haven't.
It's explained.
Is it
there.
explained in here?
It's in a couple pages. Probably would be a while.
Is that on 2021, 22, where you talk about?
We measure it through uniform crime reports
Okay.
and reporting data that goes to the state police.
I'll look forward to reading that
That's,
then.
that's how we capture that data, and what the state police has records going back years. We did a 10-year look back, and that's data that's reported right into the Uniform Crime Report database. So that's
Okay.
how we measure our performance in that area.
And then I think the second or third slide you had up, you talked about 45,000 calls with the police department and 18,000 calls for the fire department?
1,700 for the fire department.
Oh, 1,700. So how does that compare to previous years? Is that also in here? The data history?
That is not in there, data history, but I can get that, because that's something we'd have to look back on, like in terms of data, in terms of keeping that data, but we most certainly can get that.
I'd like to see the time series on that.
I
Thank you.
think that perhaps we should all get an opportunity to like look over the book, and then we can invite him back, to address any, questions or concerns we might have had, after getting a chance to really look over the report. So if you guys are all in agreement, we can arrange that, yes?
Comes to every meeting. He sits right there in the front row of every meeting.
I know, but don't we want to give him a special time? He did so much work.
If I may, Council President?
Yes.
I think that you're absolutely correct. The council should take the time to read through this report, and then I'm sure the business administrator would have no problem with any council member that wants to personally go sit with the director and go over any personal issues they may see with it, or more information they are asking for. I can only add one thing to the report. It does say 45,000 calls. I can tell you for a year, there's a lot more calls than that, because I know I make a lot of calls that aren't getting documented. So they get calls from all over the place, probably not even documented. So when they say 45,000, there's probably a lot more. Same with the fire department. So there's been a change, and Mr. Iannacone was the first one to, as long as other council members too, to say, I need data. I want to see data. I want to see statistics. And we have asked for that over the years. And it was a group of people that came out on the speeding issue, and we were done with it. And we went out and did a search, an executive search for the right choice for the public safety director, and I think the council, along with the administration, picked the right guy. And he's done a great job, and he's leading. He's a born leader, and he's showing it, and I think people are responding to it, and we're very, very fortunate to have him here. And I want to again thank the council for taking that vote and putting him on. That's it.
And very easily accessible, I want to add. He's always around. So that's
Yes, I think that we should be happy of the creation of the Morristown Department of Public Safety. And after we heard and see the report, we're validated about that.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we have. So I guess we're going to move on to the Foots Pond update.
Hey, what happened to Anne Marie left? They all left. She's going to get an earful from me. I talk to her regularly. I want to.
Thank you.
Hello there. Good to see you.
I'm going to tell her. So you can come here.
You have one for me? No?
Madam
I'll
Chair.
take Toshiba's copy. How about that?
I think I can.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
That's right.
Hello, Maureen.
There's an extra. You want it? Okay. Okay, so I wanted to thank the council for entrusting the Environmental Commission.
Who are you?
Yeah, I'm Maureen Denman. I'm the chairwoman for your Environmental Commission, your mayor's Environmental
There you
Commission.
go.
We put a lot of time into this, and with the support of both the mayor and Jillian, this was a well-thought-out process, as you know, because you approved the 3 consultants that we hired. The last consultant, NV5, did the hydrology study. And therefore, our recommendation on Foots Pond is first, it's a twofold recommendation. Regardless of which course of action we were to take, we feel it's critical that we begin a maintenance program for the pond. And so we are going to ask you to perform a quantitative analysis. We actually have a consultant by the name of Solitude Lake Management, and that is attached to the cover sheet that I handed you, to do an analysis of the sediment in the bottom of the pond, the cost not to exceed $3,000. The purpose of this analysis is to determine the amount of sediment in the pond and whether it is, what its composition is, whether it's organic or non-organic. Once that process has been completed, the recommendation is hydro raking. It is an attractive alternative to dredging. There is less impact on the pond and the surrounding area. It is a smidgen of the cost that dredging would cost, and it removes the organic matter in a more selective manner. Recently, and it literally just was, I think, a month ago, New Jersey DEP changed the law on hydro raking. You did not require permits prior to January. Now, we will have to get permits. So we are looking at what could be a 1-year process from start to finish. And obviously, with permits comes additional cost. But the first portion of this, obviously, is to do the quantitative analysis, and then we will put it out to bid. The second is to engage Solitude Lake Management in a maintenance contract. You know, the details of the contract are extensive. They will visit the pond twice a month. They will maintain the riparian, do water sampling testing, address any invasives. They've got a incredible reputation. This gentleman made himself accessible to me, to the former commissioner who was an environmental engineer who had questions that the commission had not thought of. He made himself available to the environmental engineers from the Mazer team. We had several conference calls, and this is without any kind of remuneration. So I really think highly of this gentleman at Solitude Lake Management, and quite frankly, I think we'd be remiss, and the commission was in full agreement on this. No matter what the plan or the course of action we choose for the pond or you choose for the pond, we need to start taking care of it. So we actually have Mike Okrepke, I said it right, from Mazer here. He's an environmental engineer, so if anybody has any specific questions on our recommendation that I can't answer, he's here to answer any of your questions.
Question.
Yeah,
Can
sure.
can you explain what hydro raking is?
Excuse me, would you repeat that?
Can you explain what hydro raking is?
Yes, before I explain what hydro raking is, I want to expand on one thing that Maureen said.
Okay.
And that is, the reason why it's so important to determine what is vegetative and non-vegetative sediment in a pond is that hydro raking is only applicable to vegetative sediment. In the past, as was discussed, hydro raking did not require a permit. So it was a very good way to go. Now that it requires permit, it still is a lower level of permitting and a lower threshold to meet. Put simply, vegetative material is decomposing or decomposed leaves, brush, and anything that was once living. Traditional sediment would be just sand particles and stone and things like that. As discussed, hydro raking is a lower level of threshold and something that can be done more easily, although we don't have the new standards yet. And anything more than that would be considered a dredging project. And a dredging project is a larger, more robust program, and it requires much more detailed analysis and design and soft costs, as opposed to what is required for hydro raking. So quite simply, so after that explanation, what hydro raking is the removal of that vegetative layer by essentially churning it up using water jets and cycling the water and sediment through a filter and removing it from the pond. And that is what it is. And I'm sorry for the long explanation, but I wanted to give that background so everyone knew the difference.
Is that sort of how they do it through fountains and sort of aeration or
No,
does it?
through filters, like cyclonic filters, things like that. Once it's churned up,
And where does the sediment go?
The sediment is brought on land, and it is typically in our programs. It's disposed of in the like municipal leaf composting and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah, but my understanding is now with this new law from the DEP, they will tell us where we have to store it.
It depends. It depends on the chemical compound or
Correct.
compound of it. In the maintenance, does the maintenance start to look at the inflows of sediment into the pond?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that is something that Jillian and I have actually been discussing since her first month here, where she didn't even know what Foots Pond was, but because this is an issue, obviously we've got the upper forest and the lower forest, the upper forest being Springbrook Golf Course.
Right.
And John Peel, who did the T&E evaluation, his firm, he actually took a couple of us to the spot where the upper and the lower forest connect and where we get all the stormwater runoff and the chemicals that they never used on the golf course come filtering through into the pond. And that is something, we actually have a couple of tricks up our sleeve for down the road to try and address.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Do these rules apply, let me step back. Did you come to the conclusion that this was a detention basin or a natural pond in this process? And are there different rules, i.e. whether it was built as a detention basin or was it built as a natural pond? And are the rules different for the maintenance and/or hydro and/or dredging for the two?
We did not complete an evaluation as to how this pond was originally constructed. from looking at it,
Would the rules be different if it was a detention basin?
if the DEP determines that this is a blue line stream, exists on a map, then it really, it doesn't matter how it came about, whether it was created by man or nature.
So the rules would apply either way?
Yes.
So when we were doing the history of Foots Pond for the very first proposal that we presented, we found the pond on a map from 1838. There was a book written by a Morristown historian in the 1970s where she claimed it was a man-made pond created in the early 1900s. Well, finding it on this map kind of
Through that argument?
yeah, so, I don't know. We went through every possible book in the library and in the county library and couldn't find any conclusive evidence whether it was man-made or not. But since, I think it doesn't really matter.
If it's shown on a map,
Yeah,
as far as the
shouldn't
DEP is
shouldn't
concerned,
affect,
it
shouldn't
exists.
affect the permitting.
Got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Certainly.
All right, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're gonna get everyone to give their council liaison reports.
Parking Authority met on the 19th. Again, thanks to the Parking Authority for the emergency snow parking. Fortunately, this year, it hasn't been used a lot because the two storms we've had have been minor. But still, it's a nice asset. It's a nice service to the town, and the residents truly do appreciate it. They did address some issues with the administration with reference to excessive salting on some of the parking lots, and those issues have been addressed to the satisfaction of the administration and the Shade Tree Commission. And that's it. It was a rather quiet meeting.
Awesome. Anyone else?
The Environmental Commission met on February 5th, on Tuesday, and we discussed actually these recommendations that they presented this evening, which I fully support. Be great if we could adopt these as part of our plan for the budget coming up, or what would be the process for moving forward with these recommendations? Would you need a motion? Would you need a resolution?
Not at this time. The initial next step, which is the,
$3,000?
yeah, that's something that we can do without additional further authorization. That's something that we'll undertake with engineering. And then, once that is done, then there'll need to be a design and bidding process. So we're quite a ways away from actual project.
Okay.
But once we have the sedimentation quantified, then we'll have a better sense of what the cost is intended to be, and we'll consider that as part of our budget proposal.
So to move forward, you don't need a council resolution then?
Not at this time.
Okay.
The Housing Authority, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to quickly say the partnership met on the morning of the 13th, but I was unable to attend.
The Housing Authority met yesterday. The mayor and I were in attendance. And finally, the governor's appointment has arrived, so we're very happy with that.
That's great.
I think we were waiting like 2 years.
More than that.
More than that.
Or more.
More than.
What was that?
The governor's Really?
Governor's appointment?
Yes.
It was that long?
Governor's appointment, and I made my appointment today for my appointment. So they have a completely new board.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, my microphone is off. I turned it off when everyone else was talking. The governor's appointment for the Housing Authority has finally arrived, so we're really happy about that. They had some issues with the residence center, which you all know, and they finally got all the pipes and things repaired in the building, and they're expecting that by June, when the children are done with school, that it'll be safe and functional, so that'll be good. What else? they've got some new initiative with the New Jersey Community Food Banks and Zufall Wellness to come into the senior buildings and provide services. So with the food banks, they'll come and, give the food that they have. I think they have stuff with different farmers to give them fresh organic produce and stuff. And they'll also help those that qualify to apply for SNAP benefits, which is, I guess, formerly known as food stamps. Zufall will also be providing their services, and they will provide the seniors with instructions on how to sign up for Medicaid for those that qualify. Also, the board and the director have been really cracking down on the unnecessary overtime hours, because apparently they had been, people were getting overtime not having worked 40 hours. So that has come to a complete stop. And I believe it went down something like 42 hours.
50-something.
A lot of hours, because they were getting charged many overtime hours. So that stopped. And they're really on the ball. Kennard is doing well with that board. And I guess I didn't know that you had already made your appointment. You made it today?
I asked her yesterday, she accepted.
She accepted, okay. So we've got the mayor's appointment and the governor's appointment. And I believe we're going to, I guess, I can do it now? Okay.
Sure.
So we also have 2 more places available that we need to advertise for, one being a resident appointment, and one is just a regular appointment. So we're going to need to get on the ball with that, so we can have a full board. Yeah? That's all. And anyone else? No? Okay, so we'll move on to calendar of events. Any events to announce besides the ones that our mayor mentioned?
Parade.
Okay.
All right. Under regular business, we have one ordinance for introduction. I do want to announce that when the ordinance was moved over from the last agenda, our software automatically assigned it a new number, so the agenda originally went out as O-5-2019. I just want to clarify that it is O-3-2019, an ordinance amending and supplementing the code of the town of Morristown, Chapter 7 Traffic, Section 7-40.2, handicap parking on streets for private residences, to amend the placard number assigned to a dedicated parking space for a resident on Western Avenue. Can I have a motion to introduce, please?
I move to introduce.
Second.
Okay, any comments or questions at this time from the council? Okay, on the introduction of O-3-2019, Councilman Armington,
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb,
Yes.
Councilman Elms,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone.
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Council Vice President Davis.
Yes.
Motion carries. The ordinance has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further during a public hearing on March 12th. We have one ordinance for public hearing and adoption. That's ordinance O-2-2019, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 2 Administration. Can I have a motion to adopt?
I move to adopt.
I'll second.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing for members of the public who wish to make any comment or ask any questions regarding O-2-2019. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from council?
Jillian, what's the changes? Summarize the changes.
There are generally two amendments to the ordinance. The first clarifies the role of the Public Safety Director as the appropriate authority with regard to police and fire department. Prior to the creation of the Department of Public Safety, the business administrator was the appropriate authority. But with this creation, the Director of Public Safety is now the appropriate authority.
Yeah.
Yes. As opposed to the appointing authority, which still resides with myself. The second change would restrict the police chief from working off-duty or outside-duty jobs, which is not currently in place.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. On the adoption of O-2-2019, Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council Vice President Davis?
Yes.
Okay, O-2-2019 is adopted. Under resolutions for adoption this evening, during executive session, there was a discussion regarding the resolution, this resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Morristown and the County of Morris authorizing settlement of the 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018 tax appeals entitled Jersey Central Power and Light Company versus Town of Morristown for tax assessment of Block 702, Lots 5, 501, 502, and 503, known as 11 Legion Place, 90 Ridgedale Avenue, 9 Legion Place, and Abbott Avenue, respectively, in the Town of Morristown, Morris County, New Jersey. During that discussion, specifically in paragraph 2, there are a number of entries to be deleted, specifically the bolded underlined headings that say years 2011, 2012, 2013. It appears 4 times. All 4 of those should be stricken. Stricken. If I could please have a motion to add that resolution as amended to the regular agenda as R-36-2019.
I'll move as amended.
A second.
Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council Vice President Davis?
Yes.
Okay, so that gives us 11 resolutions for adoption this evening. Resolutions R-36 through 46-2019. Unless a member of council would like to pull one or more for separate consideration, I would ask for a motion to approve all 11 en masse.
Can I pull number 40, please?
Any others? Okay, I would ask for a motion to approve R-36 through 39-2019 and R-41 through 46-2019.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution R-36, 2019 through R-39, 2019, and R-41, 2019 through R-46, 2019.
I'll second it.
Okay, Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
And Council Vice President Davis?
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution 40-2019, resolution terminating the contract with Brunswick Builders LLC for the George Granby Memorial Park Improvements Phase 1. A second, please.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Brunswick Builders, did we pay them for anything?
Yes, my understanding is that they were,
And do we have any recourse against them? Go ahead.
well, at this point, I don't know that there's really any recourse. We paid them for the work that they completed.
It was acceptable, the work they completed?
The work that was completed. There was some additional work at the park that was not done, that was taken away from them, so they didn't receive payment for that. But at this point, I think the town just thought it made more sense to terminate the contract, be done. And I think the town engineer's position is that the few remaining things that are needed to be done, a new contract will go out through a bid at the end, like in the spring, when the work can actually be completed.
And will the total project still come in under the estimated, within the estimated?
Yes, yes.
Even after we do the
Yes.
additional work?
Yes.
Yes, the engineer is shaking his head, yes.
Thank you.
I said yes. Mayor said yes.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. On the adoption of R-40-2019, Councilman Armington?
Yes.
Councilwoman Deeb?
Yes.
Councilman Elms?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Council Vice President Davis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, unfinished business, there's no unfinished business. New business, I would like, oh, we already did that. Correspondence.
Council
Discussion
President.
regarding,
Yeah. On correspondence, I have a question.
Yes.
So the letter from Nancy Mangiola was referring to the manhole explosion recently, and there has been a past history with manhole explosions in the town, and approximately around 9 or so years ago, one explosion led to a reliability study, a master study done by the reliability master from JCP&L, and that led to some major infrastructure investments. So would it make sense to, she had offered in this letter to go through some of the details of that whole settlement, and perhaps we could learn from that? Would it make sense to have a council committee to meet with her and to discuss that? The offer was made in the letter to have, inviting us if we wanted more information. So I was interested in learning more and thought if anybody else on the council wanted to do that.
I don't know.
So hold on, I'll address it. First of all, the letter was addressed to me. It was just copied to the council, it wasn't addressed to the council. Second thing, it's a sealed document, so we don't have the document. Third is the fire that took place a few weeks ago. Well, from what I understand, it was a fire, not an explosion. And we had JCP&L rep scheduled to come here to speak to the council on that issue. But with the wind damage they had the other night, they are swamped with repairs, and they asked just to push off to the next meeting, and he'll be in to explain what took place in the last two issues that took place in a couple of their manholes. But as far as the library stuff goes, we don't have that information. We do not have that information that was put in a sealed document. If the legal department gets that document from the library, they'll look at it and they'll deem what's appropriate and what's not appropriate to let out. That's it. Thank you.
So I guess that's it, guys. We made it through. So-
Motion.
Mayor, anything new on the courthouse?
No, I'm waiting. Nothing really that I know of has taken place. There are some entities out there that are different agencies that I think are questioning the amount and how much they want to build. I think it's probably going to pick up more speed as we get closer to the elections, the primary elections in the spring, on the Republican freeholder elections. We have not been asked to, obviously they said, we can join, either myself or I can designate someone to be on that committee, which I will. If I'm not there, I will designate someone in my place. I have not heard anything, but John Bonanni's been pretty good with keeping in touch, but there's been no new news. But that doesn't prompt us from making a phone call to John Bonanni to see where they're at.
Because they also mentioned they were going to have some community meetings.
Yeah, nothing's been scheduled as far as I know. There was the initial outing, and then it's a big project. And like I said, it's not I don't think people were sort of opposed to it as being the legal center for northern New Jersey. If you're looking at it that way, it can be very, very good for our town and very good for the county, and very beneficial to Morristown itself, as we have a lot of lawyers and office space and a lot of commerce. So something that we really need to sink our teeth into and make sure that we're staying on top of it and go with it all the way through the process, so that at least we're informed and we know, our citizens know what's coming. As far as what the freeholders do, we can't stop them, other than being part of the communication and participation in what takes place. But we'll follow up. We'll have Jillian follow up with John Bonanni tomorrow. But as far as we know, at least as I know, there has been no communication since.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.